1 in 5 people say that they would support only allowing people out of their homes for shopping, exercise or work based on the UK's current health situation. Almost a quarter said that they would back a return to the rule of 6, and nearly a third want nightclubs to close. That's according to the More in Common survey. Now, COVID cases and hospitalisations are increasing slightly, and experts have warned that there will be a fairly large spike this winter as a new variant thought to be more infectious spreads. But is that enough to justify a lockdown, Wilfred?
I tell you what, during the first lockdown, because I had a stem cell transplant, I was very much on one of those vulnerable groups, and I was for locking down everything. But I would not actually support that view now. And I tell you why, because the great learning from that last lockdown is that, people looked at the science and the science said, right, you need to do this and that to protect people. But what was never considered is the emotional impact it had on people who couldn't spend time with a dying parent. And I think that going forward, what we need to do is give people the information and for them to make their decisions. And I don't mind other people going out and about, whilst then they're not going to be penalised as a consequence. So
are you surprised by this poll then? Are you surprised 1 in 5 would support a lockdown right now?
I'm really, really surprised by it, because with everything that's going on at the moment with the inquiry and this massive backlash that we see about the suffering that went on, I don't want to see people suffer like that again. And it's really because they didn't have the choice. I think that people would feel differently if they're able to decide for themselves. OK,
Yasmin, people should take personal responsibility to try and stop the spread of these
I'm glad you're better, but you wouldn't be talking like this if you had been infected. And you forget. I think the question, frankly, is bonkers. Whoever came up with it, you're bonkers to ask such a bonkers question, because we're in the middle of this inquiry. There are people who have lost members of their family. And I bet if we investigated who said what, a lot of those people who want a lockdown, I wouldn't say right now, but there is a lot of evidence coming out that there's a new variant which could, 3 scientists have said, not just spread more easily, but stay around for longer and cause serious health difficulties.
OK, I'm going to defend my question. And the reason I'm going to defend my question is more people are still dying of the flu than they are of COVID. Now, we never went into lockdown over the flu in the past. Why would we be going down into lockdown?
As I said, I'm not saying right now.
But that is what this poll says.
Yes.
So 1 in 5 people
I'm saying to you
now
that a lot of the people who said yes would be people who really are traumatized that their loved ones died. As you know, I lost a sister. You think very differently. Now, if you ask me, I couldn't see her in her last days, okay? And of course, it was a terrible thing not to be able to see her. She didn't even know what was happening because she was mentally ill. Would I have changed that rule? No. And if a time comes when we do know that numbers are really seriously going up, and if medics and scientists tell us the narrative has been grabbed recently in the last year by the right wing and libertarians, saying more suffering happened as a result of lockdown without actually providing us with convincing evidence. And I think this is just madness, really. That's the lunacy of it.
OK, let me now bring in journalist Ella Whelan, who last month wrote a column in The Telegraph titled "Britain is itching to get back into lockdown." Ella, it looks, if you judge these polls to be accurate, that you were right.
Well, I mean, I think we should take all things into consideration. It's, 1 in 5 means that the majority are not itching to get back into lockdown. And actually, when you look at the breakdown of the results, the really interesting thing is that the people that were the sort of age range section of people who were least likely to support returning to lockdown was the over 75s. And that kind of bucks the trend, I think, of sort of generally how people think about these things, that it's everything should be done in favor of an elder section of the population. So, I'm almost kind of heartened that it's so little people, because I think that our mentality did change throughout the lockdown. And I think we lost a sense of the importance politically and socially of being social, of being out in the world, of being in contact with each other. I mean, Yasmin, does it make me a doesn't make me a right winger to be concerned about the prospect of, of women returning to what they had to go throughout lockdown. Very little has been talked about what happened in family homes throughout lockdown, mums suffering as they did. I mean, I've got a 1-year-old at the moment, and the idea of not being able to leave the house with him is would be world ending. It would not put me in a good place.
Well, let Yasmin come back on that. The impacts of lockdown have been shown in many, many areas. Well, whether it outweighs the alternative, I don't know. I'll leave that to the scientists. But we do hear nurseries and schools complaining. I don't know whether they're complaining, but stating that children have come to school with a lack of ability to communicate verbally, not being able to, use the bathroom. Lots of different developmental issues.
I know all that. I know domestic abuse went up. But we were talking about a situation, and we may well be back in that situation. I pray to God we aren't. This idea that we forgot to socialise, just look around you, Ella. It's pre-Christmas time. I don't think we've forgotten how to socialise at all. It's lovely to be able to do that, but I don't think we've suddenly all become introverted. I don't think that's true. But where the domestic violence, the education arguments are valid and important, in the end, if you get long COVID, which a lot of people have in this country, or you die, let's weigh that up.
It doesn't. Yeah, of course, let's weigh that up. But it sort of sounds to me like you're saying women just have to suck it up. I mean, the difference between now and let's say early 2020, or that sort of initial period of the lockdown, is that we now have a vaccine. We now have the science on our side. We have this great innovation that has saved a lot of lives. I think the interesting thing about the inquiry is that there doesn't seem to be this distinction in lockdown policy, which is the beginning lockdown was very different for most people, was very different to the latter lockdowns. And the reason the latter lockdowns were so opposed and often broken, it has to be said, by people secretly, was because we knew that we had a vaccine. We knew that, unlike in, say, May 2020, when I think you had no idea whether this was going to wipe out everyone, whether it was going to, do terrible damage to older people. Most people thought, all right, gosh, we don't know what's going to happen. Let's just play it safe. But by 2021 and later on, we knew a lot more. And yet the government was forcing anti-sociability. And I want to see more from the inquiry about the effects of lockdown rather than Partygate or COVID deaths. I think there's a real imbalance in the
You should know this, that all this is actually part of the inquiry. This idea of discrediting the inquiry should stop, because actually there is a lot of what you've just asked for in the inquiry and coming in the... But one thing, the area where I live in West London, can I just make this point? It's important.
Okay, very quickly, because I do want to get to the calls.
The area where I live, to my shock, only 65% are vaccinated.
Okay. What point were you making with that?
Ella's point that we're now vaccinated.
But we knew that not everybody got vaccinated.
Yes, and we're not that safe. The idea that we got safe as soon as we were vaccinated.
So how many people take a flu vaccine, Yasmin?
Flu vaccine doesn't kill as much as COVID did.
But flu does kill more than COVID.
Yeah.
It absolutely, year on year, kills more than COVID.
No, but the figures that we had earlier on.
During lockdown, during 2020? But now flu does kill more than COVID.
I'm talking about then, that there were people who weren't vaccinated.
Barbara from London, what's your thoughts? Would you be happy to go into lockdown now?
No, I would not.
Why?
I think that it would be too much mentally. I think the effect of the last lockdowns have mentally damaged society. I think that we can do a little bit more backing off, reserve, put your mask on. We can do those things maybe. But a full lockdown, I think we won't survive as well as we think we could.
But Barbara, what you're describing is what Wilfred referred to earlier, which is just people taking responsibility to stop the spread and curb the spread by washing their hands, staying a distance, staying in if they've got, working from home if they've got any of these symptoms. But we found even when we did have lockdown, people break the rules. People can't be trusted to use their own common sense, Barbara, in which case maybe the government has to step in. But are we bonkers to think that it's now?
They have to step in somewhat, but they were naughty themselves. So I think that we need to just all be made accountable for our actions. We could, locking down everything again was crazy the first time, let alone now. Now that we've got back to some kind of normality, you know, we need to, flu does kill.
So why do you think, Barbara, 1 in 5 people would be happy to lock down now?
Because some people liked it, some people didn't. I think it wouldn't be good for our health.
Barbara,
I don't think so.
Thank you very much for your call.
You're
Ken
welcome.
from Swindon, what's your view? Should we go into lockdown right now? I mean, COVID numbers are increasing. Ken?
Hello, yes.
Hi there. Should we go into lockdown now, do you think?
I don't think so. It's a case of really understanding the seriousness of flu. It tends to be something which is just glossed over, and we all think of COVID. I collapsed on the 19th of December last year, and I was taken into hospital in Swindon for 3 weeks.
Was this with the flu, Ken?
With flu, yes, and the complications that come with it, and you end up having, some of us with double pneumonia as well. But we tend to gloss over this and think of the C word.
Ken,
we all took more care in our personal hygiene, certainly in shops. I've seen Deliveroo taking bags into the toilets, and how can we cope if people like that are doing that?
Oh, well, that's not nice at all, and I'm sure Deliveroo would probably like a response to that. So
I'm sure they would.
We'll leave that where it stands, Ken. Let's go back to your comment, though, about flu and how much of an impact that can have. And as we've said before, this year is likely to kill more people than COVID. But should we lock down because of flu then? Perhaps every December or every winter when we get this increase of these viruses, we should all lock down?
I don't think it's a case of locking down. I think it's a case of looking after and taking care of each other, of what you're doing. People are just going out. We should perhaps in the winter think of wearing masks again. Certainly in our personal hygiene, washing hands.
I absolutely hear you on the personal hygiene. I'm just not sure that we can trust everyone to do that in the privacy of their own moment in the bathroom. Jenny on Facebook here says, I like not having the pressure of our general life during lockdown. I love getting to spend so much time with the kids without the pressure of work and commitments, but I doubt that anyone would stick to the rules next time round. It's interesting, people saying that we all need to take responsibility and then other people saying that we can't be trusted. I don't think we can agree, but it does still stand that 1 in 5 people will be quite happy to go into lockdown right now.